Hi, today I wanted to chronicle my journey into learning how to build a Yu-Gi-Oh deck. I just started with what I read online is a pretty good deck to build with, just from Structure Decks, the Shaddoll Showdown Structure Deck here. So I bought this deck here first because I didn't know that if I had gotten 3, I would be able to build a pretty good deck here. And they also just only had one at Walmart, so I ordered these 2 online. This one's still boxed up. This one I unboxed, it's right here in its plastic wrap. They're from UK sellers, so the box is a little bit different, and the order of the cards here is a little bit different, but they're the same cards. And I just wanted to build a deck to be able to play Yu-Gi-Oh when it's safe to go play Yu-Gi-Oh at card shops. And I thought it would be a really fun video to do, to kind of show my introduction into building a deck. I've never done this before, and I thought it'd be really fun to show other people who might also be wanting to get into Yu-Gi-Oh like I am, and play it and build a fun deck, and maybe win sometimes. But that's yet to be seen. So I'm going to unwrap these all, and I'll get them all sorted out. There will be 3 of every card in here. I'll hold this out here. This is all the cards that will be in this deck. And I'll have 3 of all of them. And I'll get them all sorted out here, and then we'll get to building it. So to get started off here, I found a guide on YugiohProDeck.com. I'll put a link to that in the description of this video. To this deck specifically, this is a deck built specifically for having just 3 structure decks of the Shaddoll Showdown. And it's going to get started through that. So first off, it does say to use Performage Trick Clown. I personally don't see a reason. I think the reason that's in that deck is so you can have a light type monster, because we're gonna have Dark Armed Dragon here, which you special summon by having a no, not that one. There's a card in here. Can't remember which one at the moment. Oh, Blackbuster Soldier, Envoy of the Beginning. You have to have a dark and a light monster in your graveyard to summon him. I think I prefer Fairy Tale Sleeper's effect to Performage Trick Clown's effect. She's a flip effect card, meaning you summon it in face down position, and then in your next turn you'll flip it, and then for her you get to draw a card for that. And I think that's a better effect than Performage Trick Clowns, because I don't have any other Performage cards here to use with that effect. So she just becomes a little bit more useful there. Next up is going to be 3 Mathematicians. They are... Sorry, my computer just crashed, so I had to restart that so I can pull up my list. So Mathematician, when this card is normal summoned, you can send 1 level 4 or lower monster from your deck to the graveyard. When this card is destroyed by battle, you send it to the graveyard, you can draw a card. So drawing a card is great. Monsters get destroyed all the time. Drawing cards is great, so you can have cards you need in your hand. And sending cards to the graveyard isn't a bad thing, really, either. There's a few things here that we can use to, like, special summon monsters through from the graveyard, fusion summon monsters using monsters from the graveyard. So we're gonna get those 3 Mathematicians there. We're well on our way to having a good deck ready to go. Let me just 1 second, my computer is updating, so I'm gonna pause the video and come back while my computer works so I can look at my list. Thanks. Sorry about that, we're back. So next up we're gonna have our Armageddon Knight. He's a limit 1, so you can only have one of them in your deck. And his effect is when this card is summoned, you can send one dark monster from your deck to the graveyard. Like I said earlier, having cards in the graveyard is kind of a good thing a lot of times. And then next up, we're gonna get 2 Shaddoll Beasts, which are right here. Their effects are, they're a flip effect monster. You can draw 2 cards, then discard 1 card, which is great. You get a card in your hand, and the other card goes in the graveyard. It's, graveyard's great. And if this card is sent to the graveyard, by a card effect, you can draw 1 card, you can only use 1 Shaddoll, and you can only use that effect once per turn. So yeah, even if it gets destroyed by a monster effect, which is pretty common, you get another card in your hand, keeping your hand going, making sure you're still set up someplace. And then next up, we're only going to use 1 Shaddoll Dragon. Those are this guy. It's another flip effect monster. You can target 1 card your opponent controls and return it to the hand, which is really good just for getting damage. If they only have one monster on the field, that means you can do a direct attack. Granted, they don't have a trap that stops you from doing that, or a spell effect or anything. And then if it's one that's sent to the graveyard, you can target a spell or trap on the field and destroy it, and you can only use that once per turn too. So if it's destroyed in battle, or a continuous effect is on field that it ends up destroying or something, you can get rid of that continuous effect and you don't have to worry about that any longer, which is great. And then after that, we get the Shaddoll Squamata. I think that's how you say it. We got 3 of those guys coming up. I do want to mention, I forgot to say this earlier, so a deck is 40 to 50 cards. Having a lower amount of cards is pretty good. Just for consistency, you can draw the cards you need more often if you have less cards in your deck. If you have more, you're going to have a harder time drawing the cards you want. So our Shaddoll Squamata is right here. It's another flip effect monster. Most of the Shaddoll, like 3 and 4 star monster, 2, 3, 4 star monsters are flip effects, which is great because there is a link monster we're going to be using that needs 2 flip effect monsters to summon. And you can target its flip effect. You can target 1 monster on the field and destroy it. So that's even better than sending it to the hand. The Shaddoll Beast is the one. No, that's the Shaddoll Dragon that can do that. Send a monster to their graveyard, which isn't like the worst thing in the world for them either, but it's again just getting more off of their side of the field so you can do more damage. And this card sent to the graveyard by card effect. You can send 1 Shaddoll monster from your deck to the graveyard except Shaddoll Squamata. So having these in, like I said, having these in the graveyard helps us special summon some more monsters later down the line. Next up, we're gonna have Nail Shaddoll Ariel, which is right here. I'm gonna have 1 of her. She's another flip effect. She's level 4. I do want to just say level 4 monsters, level 1 through 4 monsters, you can just summon straight from your hand. 5, 6, or 7. For 5 and higher, you have to do tribute summons or special summons to get on the field. So Nail Shaddoll Ariel, she's another flip effect monster. You can target 1 of your banished Shaddoll monsters, special summon it, and face up, or face down defense position. So there's some cards that we'll use later that to do certain things will banish a monster, which is outside of the graveyard. Usually there's not a really good way to get those back except by certain cards. This is one of those ways to get it back. If we banish like Shaddoll Squamata, we can put it face down, flip it, and then use its flip effect again, which is a good combo. I'm pretty sure. I'm talking a little bit out of my ass, but you know, gotta sound authoritative on something. And then this one, if this card is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can target up to 3 cards in the graveyard and banish them. You can only use one Shaddoll aerial effect per turn. And a lot of these effects are optional. You don't have to do them, I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong. I don't think that you have to use every single effect that your cards can do. Next up we'll have a Shaddoll Wendy, or 3 of her, sorry. And she's a level 3 monster. She's another flip effect, and then you can special summon 1 Shaddoll monster from your deck, face up or face down to the defensive position, except Shaddoll Wendy when you flip it. And if the card is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can special summon 1 Shaddoll monster from your deck in a face down defense position, except Shaddoll Wendy. So anything in our graveyard, or sorry, not our graveyard, our deck. If we really need something out to special summon something, we can just get it straight out from our deck without having to worry about drawing it later down the line. We can have it just right there when we need it, if she's destroyed by a card effect. So next up we're going to have 2 of the Shaddoll Hedgehogs. Try these guys right here. They're another flip effect, like most of them are flip effects. And this one's flip effect. You can add 1 Shaddoll spell or trap card from your deck to your hand, which is also just having cards you need in your hand when you need them is great. And if this card is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can add 1 Shaddoll monster from your deck to your hand, except Shaddoll Hedgehog. Yeah, just having things from when you need them. Same thing with most things. Next up is Quad Shaddoll Chaos, I think is how you say that. We're only gonna have 1 of him. He is a level 2 light type monster, spellcaster flip effect. His flip effect is you can special summon 1 Shaddoll monster from your hand and face up or face down defensive position. And then if this card is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can send 1 Shaddoll monster from your hand to the graveyard, and if you do, for the rest of the turn, all monsters you control gain attack and defense equal to the original level of the monster sent to the graveyard times 100. So if we send a 300 or a 3-star monster to the graveyard, we get 300 attack and defense for the rest of our cards for that turn. Or, yeah, for the rest of the turn. And you can only use that effect once per turn. Next up, we're just going to have 1 Shaddoll Falco, which is this guy right here. He's the tuner that, for lore reasons, is a tuner, but he doesn't need... There's no synchro monsters in this deck. He's another flip effect monster and tuner. His flip effect is you can target 1 Shaddoll monster in your graveyard, except Shaddoll Falco, and special summon it in face down defense position, which is face down is probably how we're going to special summon all of these monsters anyway, because they're flip effects, so the next turn we flip them over and get a cool effect. And this card is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can special summon it in face down defense position, and you can only use 1 Shaddoll Falco effect per turn. And only once that turn. And then you can... So he just destroyed by an effect, we put him in the graveyard, take him right back out, flip him over, or put him face down next turn, flip him over, use that effect again. Which is a really, really good way to do things there. Especially because there are a lot of effects that will destroy our monsters. So having ways to counter that is great. And then Blackluster Soldier Envoy at the beginning, we're going to have 1 of him. He's a really cool card, I like him a lot. He can't be normal summoned or set. He has to be special summoned from your hand by banishing 1 light and 1 dark monster from your graveyard. Banishing, like I said, the Ariel's going to be able to fix summon banished monsters. And then once per turn we can activate 1 of his 2 effects, both of which are really awesome. His first effect is you can target one monster on the field and banish it, and this card can't attack for the rest of the turn activated. Or you can, if you attack a monster and destroy it, you can attack again with him, which is a really great effect, especially if you have like 2 low-level monsters on the opponent's field. Take them both out, get a lot of damage dealt, or they only have 1 monster on the field, destroy that and get 3,000 damage directly on your opponent. He's going to be a really, really strong, really cool, and important part of the deck to use. And then after that, we're going to have 2 Dark Arms Dragons, which are right here. He's also a really cool card. He's an effect monster. He's level 7, and he can't be special or normal summoned or set, so you can't even tribute summon. You have to special summon him from your hand by having exactly 3 dark monsters in your graveyard. Luckily, a lot of the cards here are dark. See by that symbol right there, that's a dark monster. And then you can banish 1 dark monster from the graveyard and then target 1 card in the field and destroy that monster. So we have him on the field. Just get rid of someone else's card by banishing one of our own, which is really good just to get things out of the way. So, and then next we're going to have a Foolish Burial, which is right here. Is a spell card where all of our monsters are in. All of the monsters are good to go. So we're going to have a Foolish Burial here. What it does is sends 1 monster from your deck to the graveyard. Having things in the graveyard, it's pretty good for this deck. That's a 1 limited card, so no matter what, you can only have 1 card of that, 1 copy of that card in your deck. And then we're going to have 1 Pot of Avarice, which I really like. What it does is you can target 5 monsters in your graveyard and shuffle all 5 into the deck and then draw 2 cards. It's pretty self-explanatory. We're going to have 3 Allures of Darkness. So you draw 2 cards, then banish 1 dark monster from your hand, or if you do not have any in your hand, send your entire hand to the graveyard. So I mean, just drawing cards is always good. I don't know what to say. And then we'll have a Shaddoll Fusion. So these next 3 cards are going to do a lot of the same things. It'll be pretty self-explanatory. Besides Super Fusion, it's going to be a little bit more. So we're going to have 3 Shaddoll Fusions because we have a lot of fusion monsters that will be going in our extra deck. Shaddoll Fusion is right here. So what that does is you fusion summon a Shaddoll fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as fusion monsters. That's self-explanatory right there. If your opponent controls a monster that was special summoned from the extra deck, so if they fusion summon a monster or link summon, anything like that, just regular special summon from their extra deck, if they have any of those monsters from their extra deck on the field, you can also use monsters from the deck to fuse. And you can only use that once per turn, but just more ways to fusion summon monsters is really good. Okay, sorry if there's a little bit of differences here. My phone camera cut out because I was running out of space, so I had to clear up some space, and then so we're reshooting a few things here. So we got our Shaddoll Fusions in. Next up, we're going to put in 3 L Shaddoll Fusions, which is just the same thing, just without the ability to use things from the graveyard if your opponent has an effect. Pretty simple, pretty easy to explain. It's just fuse cards using few Shaddolls with cards from your hand or field. We're going to have 3 of those. We're going to have 3 Super Polymerizations, which is really good. You discard 1 card and then you can fusion summon 1 monster from your extra deck using monsters from either field, meaning yours or your opponent's field. as fusion material, and then neither player can activate cards or effects in response to this card's activation. So there's so you can special summon or fusion summon a monster really with a lot of resources, while getting rid of cards from your opponent's field possibly, and also they can't counter it. They can't use a trap or spell effect or a monster effect to stop you from doing that. You can just do it completely freely and with a lot of different material. And then we're gonna add one Nephe's Shaddoll Fusion. This is an equip card, an equip spell. You can equip it to a monster to change its attribute. It's really good. So there's a couple fusion monsters that we'll put in our extra deck that require like a water monster or a fire monster. There is like one water monster. I don't think there's a fire monster in the deck. So if you want to use that card that uses a fire monster, you can equip this to a card, and then that lets you fusion summon a regular Shaddoll monster with cards from your hand or the field, including what's equipped here, so you can have that fire monster ready to go and summon and fusion summon that monster. And after that, this is the last things that's going to be in our main deck. We're just going to put 3 Rush Shaddoll Incarnations, which are right here. What it does is it targets one Shaddoll monster in your graveyard and special summons it face up or face down in a defensive position. Then you can banish this card and one Shaddoll card from your graveyard, and then activate one of these 2 effects. One of them is to change one face down monster you control and face up defense to face up defense position. Or you can change one face up monster you control to face down defense position. You can only use one Rush Shaddoll Incarnation effect per turn, and only once that turn. So that just lets us put our flip monsters face down, or if they're face down, we can get that flip effect out just right there. And those flip effects are really good. So next up, I'm gonna pause the video here for a second, and we're gonna get together. Actually, no, before I do that, I'm gonna get together our side deck, which is a deck of cards we can use in between duels to swap out cards or add to the deck, depending on our opponent. This is just gonna be really quick. We're just gonna take 3 lava golems, which you've probably seen in the manga or anime. That's my favorite way to experience Yu-Gi-Oh. This is a fiend effect monster, and it can't be normal summoned or set. It has to be special summoned from your hand to your opponent's field by tributing 2 monsters that they control. So you get rid of 2 of their monsters and you get this, and then but you do put this on their side of the field, which is a little bit of a double-edged sword. It has a really high attack. However, once per turn during the standby phase, the player who has this on their side of the field takes 1,000 points of damage, which is an 1/8 of their points. So even if they get it off the field the very next turn, they're still taking 1,000 damage, which is quite good. Especially if you can keep that on their side of the field for multiple turns. And then after that, we're just gonna get 3 Twin Twisters, which are right here. And what that does is that you discard 1 card and then target up to 2 spells or traps on the field and destroy them. Pretty straightforward, just getting rid of spells that you don't want there. Spells or traps. And then we're gonna add 3 Necro Fusions, which are right here. It's a trap card, and you can fusion summon 1 monster from your extra deck by banishing fusion materials listed on it from your graveyard face down, but it cannot attack this turn. Yeah, just using that graveyard. There's a lot of different effects that can get things in the graveyard or out of the graveyard, and just having a lot of options to fuse is always really good. It's because those are going to be our strongest monsters. After that, we're going to have Lost Wind, 3 of them. They're trap cards. And you can target one special summon monster on the field and negate its effects. Also, its original attack is halved. The monster is special summoned from your opponent's extra deck. While this card is in your graveyard, except during the damage step, you can set this card but banish it when it leaves the field. Pretty straightforward, I feel. And it's obviously not something we're going to use all the time. It's an extra deck, or a side deck card. And then after that, just to finish off the side deck, we're going to get an Unending Nightmare. Or 3 of those. If we need them. And you can pay, this lets you can pay 1,000 life points and then target one face-up spell or trap on the field and destroy it. And you can only activate this once per turn. Or once per chain, actually. So if there's multiple chains in a turn, you can use that multiple times. And the side deck can only be 15 cards, so that's all it's gonna... There's our side deck right there. And our main deck is right here, also done. So I'm just gonna clear off my little cardboard box table here, and we're just gonna get our extra deck done real quick. Alright, and this is the final step, is our extra deck. We've got all of our fusion and link monster there, and just gonna put this together pretty quick. We're just gonna take 2 Shaddoll Shangus. Don't know if I'm saying that correctly. It's a machine fusion effect. It just takes 1 shadow monster and 1 earth monster, which we have earth monsters in the deck. I think the mathematician is one of those. It has to be fusion summon, and when a special summon monster activates effect, while you have the shadow card in your hand, you can negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that monster and send 1 shadow card from your hand to the graveyard. You can only use that once per turn, and if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target 1 shadow spell / trap card in your graveyard and send it to your hand. Just 2 of those. Most of these are going to have the same effect, I'm pretty sure. That's what I was reading through them, and I'm pretty sure it's basically the same effect for all of them. So I'm not really going to go through it unless it's really different. So next we're going to take 1 Shaddoll and Linus. It just takes 1 Shaddoll and 1 water monster, has to be fusion summoned, and neither player can special summon monsters from the hand or graveyard using spell / trap effects. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target 1 Shaddoll spell / trap, add it to your graveyard and send it to your hand. Or from your graveyard and send it to the hand. We're going to take 3 Shaddoll constructs. Which are right here. It's a fairy fusion effect. 1 Shaddoll plus 1 light monster. It must be fusion summoned, and if this card is special summoned, you can send 1 Shaddoll card from your deck to the graveyard. At the start of the damage step, if this card battles a special summon monster, destroy that monster. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target 1 Shaddoll spell / trap in your graveyard and add it to your hand. They all have that same... I'm pretty sure they all have that same last effect, just adding the spell / trap from your graveyard to your hand. We're going to take 1 Shaddoll Crystal after that. This is the fire one I was talking about earlier. It's a rock fusion effect monster. It's just 1 Shaddoll monster and 1 fire monster. It has to be fusion summoned. And when your opponent would special summon a monster while you have a Shaddoll card in your hand, you can negate the summon, and if you do, destroy that monster. Then send 1 Shaddoll card from your hand to the graveyard, and you can only use the effect that once per turn. If send it to the graveyard, you can target 1 Shaddoll spell trap and add it to your hand from the graveyard. Oh, that's a really good effect. Stopping special summons is really good. Shaddoll Apocalone is next. We're gonna have 2 of that. Which is right here. It's a Spellcaster Fusion effect monster. It's 2 Shaddoll monsters with different attributes. Then it has to be fusion summoned, and it cannot be destroyed by battle, which is great. You can only use each of the following effects once per turn. If this card is special summoned, you can target 1 face-up card on the field and negate its effects. If this card is sent to the graveyard, or if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can add 1 Shaddoll card from your hand or graveyard to your hand, then discard 1 card. After that, we're going to have El Shaddoll Wendigo, just one. That one is Psychic Fusion Effect, and it's just one Shadow monster and one wind monster. It has to be fusion summoned, and you can target one monster you control this turn. It cannot be destroyed by battle with an opponent's special summon monster. You can only use this effect once per turn if the card is sent to the graveyard. Target one Shadow spell trap in your graveyard. Add it to your hand. If you're going through these a lot, you're going to lose. If you're losing these guys in battle a lot, you're gonna end up with a lot of spells and traps, which is good. Having those cards you need is good. We're gonna have 3 El Shaddoll Windows. It's a Spellcaster Fusion and Effect monster. It's just one Shadow monster and one Dark monster. Has to be fusion summoned. Cannot be destroyed by an opponent's card effect, which is really good. There are a lot of cards that will destroy monsters. And then each player can only special summon one monster once per turn while this card is face up on the field. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target one Shadow spell or trap out of your hand. Just limiting the amount of special summons you can do, which isn't the worst thing in the world because all of our fusion cards can only be used once per turn, but also limiting what your opponent can do, which is really good, or just to keep them from overwhelming you. And then we're going to add 2 Shaddoll Constructs, which is a Link monster that takes 2-foot monsters, and then during your main phase you can fusion summon one Shaddoll Fusion and monster from your extra deck, which is really good. Just getting a lot of those really good monsters out on the field. You can use monsters from your hand or field as the fusion material, and if this card is in your graveyard, you can send one Shaddoll card from your hand or face up field to the graveyard. And if you do, you can special summon this card. You can only use each effect of the Shaddoll Construct once per turn. And that's it. That's our extra deck right there. It's 15 cards, which is the maximum amount of extra deck cards. And there we have it. We're all set to play Yu-Gi-Oh! I hope this video was fun and informative for you. If you followed along, I hope it helped you build a great deck, and I am really excited to start playing with mine eventually. And I hope you enjoyed it. You can like, comment, subscribe if you want to. I don't really care. This is more a fun project for me, and I hope that you have fun I hope you had fun. I hope you have fun playing the game and building a deck. I hope this was informative. Thanks for watching.